There is a battle taking place inside you every single day. You wake up with potential, but you also wake up with habits. You have dreams, but you also have excuses. You have ambition, but you also have distractions. You know what you should do, but there are moments when another voice inside you says, "Not today, start tomorrow, you deserve to rest, you can do it later." And if you listen to that voice long enough, something dangerous happens. You begin becoming comfortable with the distance between who you are and who you know you could become. That distance is where frustration lives. You know you are capable of more, but you're not doing more. You know you could be disciplined, but you're inconsistent. You know you could build something meaningful, but you keep postponing the beginning. You know you should spend your time differently, but somehow the hours disappear. Then one day you look at your life and wonder, how did I get here? You didn't get there in one giant decision. You got there through hundreds of small decisions. And the good news is that you can change your direction the same way, not through one magical moment. Through small decisions repeated until they become a new way of living. When I say, kill the weakness in you, I don't mean hate yourself. I don't mean punish yourself. I don't mean become cruel toward yourself. I mean something much more powerful. Identify the behaviors that are keeping you small and stop feeding them. Kill the procrastination. Kill the excuse making. Kill the addiction to comfort. Kill the need for everybody's approval. Kill the habit of quitting. Kill the tendency to blame circumstances for everything. Kill the belief that you have to feel motivated before you act. You don't destroy the person. You destroy what is preventing the person from growing. There is a stronger version of you waiting on the other side of discipline, and that version of you is not created by wishing. It is created by decisions. You cannot think your way into a disciplined life without practicing discipline. You cannot dream your way into financial freedom without changing your financial habits. You cannot wish your way into confidence without doing things that make you respect yourself. Confidence is not something you simply receive. You build it. You build it every time you keep a promise to yourself. You build it every time you do something difficult instead of avoiding it. You build it every time you choose your long-term future over your short-term comfort. Think about that. Every promise you keep to yourself is a deposit into your confidence. Every promise you break is a withdrawal. If you repeatedly tell yourself, tomorrow I will start, and tomorrow comes and nothing happens, something happens inside you. You begin trusting yourself less. You may not say it out loud, but deep down you know when you're making excuses. You know when you're avoiding the work. You know when you're capable of more. And that is why the first step toward changing your life is not motivation, it is honesty. Be honest with yourself. Where are you wasting your time? Where are you wasting your money? Where are you wasting your energy? What habit keeps producing the same disappointing result? What are you doing repeatedly that you already know is hurting your future? Don't run from those questions. Sit with them, because the truth may be uncomfortable, but the truth is also liberating. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to name. If you're constantly distracted, call it distraction. If you're procrastinating, call it procrastination. If you're spending irresponsibly, call it financial indiscipline. If you're constantly seeking approval, call it a dependence on validation. If you quit whenever things become difficult, call it inconsistency. Don't decorate your weaknesses with sophisticated explanations. Sometimes the reason you're not moving forward is simply that you're not doing the work consistently enough, and that's actually good news. Because if your behavior is the problem, your behavior can change. You're not trapped. You're not permanently defined by yesterday. You can learn, you can adjust, you can rebuild, you can become more disciplined than you are today, but you have to stop waiting for somebody else to rescue you from habits. You have the responsibility to change. There is a dangerous habit in modern life, blaming the outside world for everything happening inside your life. The economy is difficult. My family didn't support me. Nobody gave me an opportunity. I didn't have the right connections. I wasn't born wealthy. I don't have enough time. I'm not motivated. I don't feel confident. Maybe some of these things are true. Life is not equally easy for everyone. Circumstances matter. But there is a question more powerful than asking why life isn't fair. The question is, what can I do with what I have? That question puts power back into your hands. You may not control where you started. You may not control what happened 5 years ago. You may not control other people's decisions, but you can control what you learn. You can control how you use your time. You can control your attitude. You can control your preparation. You can control your discipline. And those things can gradually change your circumstances. Don't waste your life staring at the doors that are closed. Start working on the doors you can open. Sometimes the opportunity you want isn't available yet because you're not prepared for it. You want a bigger business, but you haven't learned how to manage the small one. You want more money, but you haven't learned how to manage what you already have. You want leadership, but you haven't learned to lead yourself. You want success, but you haven't developed the discipline required to sustain it. You want a different life while maintaining the habits that created your current one. Something has to change, and that change begins with you. One of the biggest weaknesses you must confront is the desire for comfort. Comfort is not evil. Rest is necessary. Enjoyment is necessary. But comfort becomes dangerous when it becomes your highest priority. If every difficult thing makes you uncomfortable, and every uncomfortable thing makes you quit, your life will remain small because growth is uncomfortable. Learning is uncomfortable. Starting a business is uncomfortable. Saving money when everyone else is spending is uncomfortable. Going to the gym when you're tired is uncomfortable. Having a difficult conversation is uncomfortable. Saying no to people you care about can be uncomfortable. Being different from your friends can be uncomfortable. But discomfort is not always a warning. Sometimes discomfort is evidence that you're expanding. Think about exercise. The muscle becomes stronger because it is challenged. Your character works the same way. You become mentally stronger by facing challenges you once avoided. You become financially stronger by controlling impulses. You become emotionally stronger by learning not to react to everything. You become professionally stronger by doing difficult work when nobody is watching. So stop asking, how can I make everything easier? Start asking, how can I become stronger? That question changes everything. Because when you become stronger, problems that once overwhelmed you become manageable. The mountain doesn't necessarily become smaller. You become better at climbing. The work doesn't necessarily become easier. You become more capable of doing it. The uncertainty doesn't disappear. You become more comfortable moving forward despite uncertainty. That is growth. Another weakness you must confront is procrastination. Procrastination is one of the most expensive habits a person can develop because it doesn't always feel dangerous. It feels harmless. You say, I'll do it later. And later feels like a real place, but later keeps moving. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. Then suddenly you're looking back at years of your life wondering why you didn't begin. You don't need to feel ready. You need to begin. Start badly if you have to. Start small. Start with 20 minutes. Start with one page. Start with one customer. Start with one workout. Start with one application. Start with one conversation. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. A person who waits for confidence before taking action can wait forever, but a person who acts despite uncertainty begins developing confidence through experience. That's why you must stop negotiating with yourself. If you decided to wake up at 6, wake up at 6. If you decided to exercise, exercise. If you decided to write, write. If you decided to save, save. You don't need to debate your goals every morning. You need standards. A standard says, this is simply what I do. That is different from motivation. Motivation says, I feel like doing this. Discipline says, I said I would do this. Your emotions are allowed to change. Your standards should not change every time your emotions do. Imagine building a business according to your mood. Imagine managing your finances according to your mood. Imagine raising children according to your mood. Imagine exercising only when you feel enthusiastic. You wouldn't get very far. Life requires consistency, and consistency is simply the ability to keep doing what matters after the excitement disappears. That is why so many people start and so few finish. Starting feels exciting. Finishing requires character. The beginning gives you adrenaline. The middle gives you boredom. The end gives you results. Most people quit in the middle. They quit when the excitement is gone, but the reward hasn't arrived yet. That's where you must become different. When the excitement disappears, return to the reason you started. When the results are slow, return to the process. When nobody notices, return to your standards. When doubt appears, return to the work. There will be seasons when you feel like nothing is happening. Don't mistake invisible progress for no progress. A tree spends years developing roots that you cannot see. Your life has roots too. You're learning, you're developing patience, you're building skills, you're becoming more disciplined, you're developing judgment, you're learning how to communicate, you're learning how to manage money, you're learning what kind of people belong in your life. You're learning what you will and will not tolerate. All of that matters. The world may only see the fruit, but you know how long you spent developing the roots? That's why you should never compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You see their results, you don't see their years, you see their confidence, you don't see the mistakes that built it, you see their success, you don't see the discipline behind it. Comparison becomes dangerous when you use someone else's visible result to judge your invisible process. Your responsibility is not to become them. Your responsibility is to become better than the person you were yesterday. That's the race. Yesterday's you, today's you, tomorrow's you. Improve that relationship and your life begins changing. Now let's talk about another weakness, the need for approval. There are people who spend years of their lives trying to convince everyone around them that their choices are acceptable. They want everyone to understand their dream, they want everyone to agree, they want everyone to approve, but you will never build a remarkable life if you require unanimous approval before making a decision. People have different experiences, different fears, different expectations, different definitions of success. Someone else's inability to understand your vision does not automatically make your vision wrong. Sometimes you have to walk quietly. Sometimes you have to build without announcing. Sometimes you have to work while people laugh. Sometimes you have to keep going while people say, "Are you sure?" You don't need to argue with them. Your results will eventually speak. But even more importantly, your growth will speak to you. You will know. You will know that you became more disciplined. You will know that you stopped wasting time. You will know that you became financially responsible. You will know that you stopped running away from difficult things. That internal knowledge is more powerful than applause, because applause comes from other people. Self-respect comes from how you live when nobody is watching. And that brings us to one of the most important principles of personal development. Do not make promises to yourself casually. Your words should mean something to you. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, make an effort to do it. Start small if necessary. Don't make 10 promises and keep one. Make one promise and keep it. Then make another, then another. Eventually, you become someone who trusts yourself. And when you trust yourself, confidence becomes natural. You don't need to constantly tell yourself that you're powerful. Your behavior proves it. You don't need motivational speeches every morning to convince yourself you're disciplined. Your habits demonstrate it. Your life becomes evidence. That is real confidence. Now consider your relationship with failure. Another weakness is the fear of being wrong. Some people don't take action because they are terrified of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of the tuition of success. You pay for education with money. You pay for experience with mistakes. You pay for wisdom with difficult lessons. You cannot learn everything from theory. At some point, you have to enter the arena. You have to try. You have to make decisions. You have to risk being imperfect. You have to be willing to discover that your first idea wasn't your best idea. That's okay. Adjust, learn, improve. Try again. Failure only becomes permanent when you refuse to learn from it. A mistake can become an asset if it teaches you something you never forget. So don't ask, how can I avoid every failure? Ask, how can I make sure every failure teaches me something? That's a much better question. Another weakness is distraction. Your attention is one of your most valuable assets. And there are entire industries competing for it. Every notification is asking for it. Every video is asking for it. Every argument is asking for it. Every social media platform wants another minute of your attention. If you don't decide where your attention goes, someone else will. And if your attention is scattered, your life will be scattered. You cannot build something extraordinary with fragmented attention. You need periods where you work without interruption, read without checking your phone, think without constantly consuming information, plan without immediately reacting to someone else's agenda. Your ability to concentrate is a competitive advantage. Learn to sit with one task, finish it, then move to the next. You don't need to be busy all day. You need to be productive with the hours that matter. There's a difference between activity and progress. You can answer 50 messages and accomplish nothing important. You can spend 8 hours moving around and still avoid the one task that would actually change your life. Ask yourself, what is the one thing I need to accomplish today? Then protect the time required to accomplish it, because your future is hidden inside your priorities. What you repeatedly prioritize becomes your life. If entertainment is always first, your life reflects entertainment. If learning is always first, your life reflects learning. If health is always first, your life reflects health. If your business is always first, your business grows. Your calendar is often more honest than your goals. You may say you want success, but where does your time go? You may say you want financial freedom, but where does your money go? You may say you want knowledge, but what do you consume every evening? Your behavior reveals your true priorities, and this is where transformation becomes practical. Don't just say, I need to change to find what change looks like. If you're wasting 3 hours every evening, reduce it to 1. If you're spending too much money, create a spending limit. If you're exercising once a week, start with 3 times. If you're reading 0 pages, read 5. If you're waking up at 9 and want to wake up at 6, don't demand perfection tomorrow. Move gradually and build consistency. Small improvements are powerful because they are sustainable. You don't need to become a completely different person in 24 hours. You need to stop being the same person every day. That is the difference. Improve something, then improve something else, then improve again. Eventually, those improvements compound. This is true financially, it's true physically, It's true intellectually. It's true emotionally. It's true professionally. Your life compounds, your habits compound, your relationships compound, your knowledge compounds, your mistakes compound if you refuse to correct them. Your discipline compounds if you practice it. Everything is moving in a direction. The question is, what direction are you feeding? You cannot control everything, but you can influence the trajectory. And trajectory matters more than speed. Someone moving slowly in the right direction is better positioned than someone moving quickly in the wrong direction. So stop obsessing over how fast everyone else is moving. Ask whether you're moving correctly. Now let's talk about the weakness of quitting. Quitting is sometimes necessary. There are things you should leave: bad investments, destructive relationships, unhealthy environments, projects that no longer make sense. But there is a difference between wise quitting and emotional quitting. Wise quitting comes from understanding. Emotional quitting comes from discomfort. You must learn the difference. Don't quit simply because something became difficult. Difficulty is not proof that you should stop. Sometimes difficulty is proof that you're finally doing something meaningful. The beginning of every worthwhile endeavor contains uncertainty. You will not know everything. You will make mistakes. You will have setbacks. You will experience days when you question yourself. That's normal. The question is whether you can continue while learning. If you can, you become dangerous in the best possible sense, because consistency becomes your advantage. While others keep starting over, you're still building. While others chase the newest opportunity, you're mastering the current one. While others become distracted by trends, you're developing fundamentals, and fundamentals never become obsolete. Discipline, learning, communication, integrity, patience, financial responsibility, time management, problem solving. These principles survive every trend. Technology changes, human nature doesn't change nearly as quickly. That's why personal development matters. The better you become, the more valuable you become, and value creates opportunity. You don't have to chase every opportunity. Become valuable enough that opportunities begin finding you. But understand something else. Becoming valuable requires humility. You have to admit that you don't know everything. You have to remain teachable. You have to accept correction. You have to read. You have to listen. You have to observe. You have to learn from people who have already traveled roads you're beginning to walk. Pride says, I already know. Wisdom says, teach me. The moment you stop learning, your growth begins slowing down. Never become so successful that you stop being a student. There's always another level, another skill, another lesson, another weakness to overcome, another opportunity to become wiser. Your goal should not be to reach a place where you have nothing left to improve. Your goal should be to become someone who enjoys improving. That is a lifelong advantage, and as you grow, something else changes: your relationship with money. Many people think financial problems are solved only by earning more. Sometimes they are. But if you give more money to an undisciplined person, you may simply create larger problems. If you don't know how to manage $1,000, receiving $10,000 doesn't automatically make you wise. It gives your habits more power. That's why financial growth and personal growth must happen together. Learn to earn, learn to save, learn to invest carefully, learn to avoid unnecessary debt, learn to distinguish between wants and needs, learn to think long-term. Money is a tool. Don't worship it. Don't fear it. Learn to manage it. The same applies to time. If you waste your time, no amount of money can buy yesterday back. Time is the one resource you cannot replenish. That's why every day deserves intention. Not pressure, not anxiety, intention. Wake up knowing what matters. Know what you're building. Know what you need to improve. Know what deserves your attention, and then do the work. You don't need to know exactly how your entire life will unfold. You only need to know the next responsible step. Sometimes people become paralyzed because they want a complete map, but life rarely gives you the complete map. It gives you the next step. Take it. Then another step becomes visible, then another. This is how people build extraordinary lives. One responsible decision at a time. Now, think about the person you want to become 5 years from now. Don't just imagine the possessions. Imagine the character. How does that person think? How does that person spend time? How does that person handle money? How does that person react to criticism? How does that person deal with failure? How does that person treat people? How disciplined are they? How knowledgeable are they? Then ask yourself, what would that person do today? That question is powerful. If your future self would read the book, read it. If your future self would save the money, save it. If your future self would make the difficult call, make it. If your future self would walk away from the distraction, walk away. You don't become your future self someday. You become that person through today's decisions. That's the secret. The future is not a place you eventually arrive at. And eventually, something wonderful happens. The things that once required enormous effort become normal. Getting up early becomes normal. Reading becomes normal. Saving becomes normal. Exercising becomes normal. Saying no becomes normal. Working without applause becomes normal. You no longer have to fight yourself every morning. And that is when success becomes easier, not because the world changed. Because you changed, the resistance inside you became smaller. Your discipline became stronger. Your standards became clearer. Your priorities became sharper. Your confidence became rooted in evidence. You now have proof that you can trust yourself. That is a powerful place to live. So if you're listening to this and thinking about all the weaknesses you need to overcome, don't become overwhelmed. Choose one. Start there. Maybe your biggest weakness is procrastination. Then make today the day you stop delaying the most important task. Maybe your weakness is distraction. Then protect one uninterrupted hour every day. Maybe your weakness is poor money management. Then begin tracking every dollar. Maybe your weakness is inconsistency. Then choose one small habit and practice it daily. Maybe your weakness is negative thinking. Then become more intentional about what you read, listen to, and repeat to yourself. Maybe your weakness is fear. Then take one action you've been avoiding, one. You don't have to conquer your entire life tonight. You just have to win today's battle. Then tomorrow win another. Eventually those small victories become a new identity, and when your identity changes, your life follows. So stop waiting for someone to give you permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for everybody to believe in you. You don't need everyone. You need yourself committed to the process. You need a standard. You need a direction. You need patience. You need discipline, and you need the courage to look at yourself honestly, because the enemy isn't always outside. Sometimes the thing standing between you and your next level is the habit you keep defending. You defend the procrastination. You defend the distraction. You defend the distraction. You defend the spending. You defend the excuses. You defend the comfort. You defend the people-pleasing. And then you wonder why you're not free. You cannot protect the habits that are destroying the future you say you want. At some point you have to choose. Comfort or growth, excuses or responsibility, distraction or focus, temporary pleasure or lasting freedom, fear or action. You don't have to choose perfectly every day, but you have to choose intentionally, and every time you choose correctly, you strengthen the person you're becoming. That is the real battle, not against your neighbor, not against your competitor, not against the person who doubted you, against the part of yourself that wants to remain exactly where you are. That part of you is familiar. It knows your excuses. It knows your fears. It knows your comfort zones. But it doesn't know your future. Your future requires something more. It requires growth. It requires discipline. It requires courage. And you are capable of developing all three. Remember this, you don't need to become extraordinary overnight. You need to stop repeatedly doing ordinary things that keep producing an ordinary life. Change your mornings, change your evenings. Change what you consume, change who influences you, change how you spend, change how you work, change how you respond to setbacks, change what you tolerate from yourself, then watch the direction of your life change. Success becomes easier when you stop fighting against yourself. When your habits support your goals, progress requires less resistance. When your environment supports your discipline, temptation becomes weaker. When your priorities are clear, decisions become easier. When your standards are strong, excuses become less convincing. When you trust yourself, confidence becomes natural. That is the destination, not perfection, alignment. Your actions finally begin matching your ambitions. Your daily life begins matching the future you desire. And when that happens, success is no longer something you constantly chase. It becomes something you're consistently creating. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. What weakness am I no longer willing to feed? Choose one, write it down, then write the replacement behavior. If you procrastinate, replace it with action. If you overspend, replace it with discipline. If you complain, replace it with responsibility. If you consume endlessly, replace some of that time with creation. If you quit too easily, replace quitting with another attempt. If you seek approval, replace it with self-respect. Then tomorrow morning, don't make a speech about it. Just do it. Let your actions announce the change, because talking about transformation feels good, but practicing transformation changes your life. And don't underestimate what can happen when you spend the next 12 months becoming slightly better every day. You could become almost unrecognizable. Not because you became someone else, because you finally became more of yourself, the disciplined version, the focused version, the courageous version, the responsible version, the version that has always been there beneath the excuses. That person is waiting, not for someday, for today. So kill the weakness, not yourself. Kill the habits that keep you small. Kill the excuses that keep you waiting. Kill the fear that keeps you frozen. Kill the distraction that steals your attention. Kill the need for everyone to understand. Kill the tendency to quit and replace all of it with something stronger. Discipline, focus, patience, courage, learning, responsibility, consistency. Then keep going. When nobody notices, keep going. When progress is slow, keep going. When you're tired, rest if necessary, then keep going. When you make a mistake, learn and keep going. When you fall, get back up. When you doubt yourself, return to the work, because your life will eventually reflect what you repeatedly do. And if what you repeatedly do is improve, your life has no choice but to change. You may not see the transformation tomorrow. You may not see it next week, but keep planting, keep watering, keep building, keep learning, keep becoming. One day you will look back and realize something extraordinary. The thing you once called impossible became normal. The discipline you once struggled with became part of your identity. The life you once dreamed about became your everyday reality. And you will understand that success did not suddenly become easier. You became stronger, you became wiser, you became more disciplined, you became less distracted, you became more patient, you stopped sabotaging yourself. And that is when everything began to change. So don't wait for life to become easier. Become better. Don't wait for circumstances to change. Change what you control. Don't wait for motivation. Build discipline. Don't wait for confidence. Take action. Don't wait for tomorrow. Use today. Your future is being built right now. Every decision matters. Every habit matters. Every hour matters. Every choice is shaping the person you're becoming. Make better choices, then make them again and again and again. Until discipline is no longer something you force. Until courage is no longer something you search for. Until focus is no longer something you struggle to maintain. Until doing the right thing becomes simply what you do. That is when you will discover the truth. Success doesn't always require extraordinary talent. Sometimes it simply requires removing the ordinary weaknesses that keep extraordinary potential trapped. Become the person who keeps promises. Become the person who finishes. Become the person who learns. Become the person who saves. Become the person who works. Become the person who thinks. Become the person who works. Become the person who thinks. Become the person who acts. Become the person who refuses to surrender their future for temporary comfort. And when you become that person, you won't have to chase success quite so desperately. You'll be building it every single day. Your life will become the evidence. Your habits will become the proof. Your character will become the foundation. And your results will eventually become the reward. So begin. Begin with one weakness, one habit, one decision, one day, then repeat. Because the person you want to become is not waiting somewhere in the future. That person is being built by what you do right now. Kill the weakness, strengthen the character, control the habits, protect the vision, do the work, and let your future self thank you for refusing to quit today.